A Happiness Essay Guide. Chapter 1. Happiness Essays. Happiness 1. How to be happy. Are you almost disgusted with life, little man? I'll tell you a wonderful trick that will bring you contentment, if anything can. Do something for somebody, quick. Are you awfully tired with play, little girl? Wearied, discouraged, and sick? I'll tell you the loveliest game in the world. Do something for somebody, quick. Though it rains, like the rain of the flood, little man, and the clouds are forbidding and thick, you can make the sun shine in your soul, little man. Do something for somebody, quick. Though the stars are like brass overhead, little girl, and the walks like a well-heated brick, and our earthly affairs in a terrible whirl. Do something for somebody, quick. Anonymous. The golden rule of happiness is to be happy and satisfied with who you are and what you got this minute and every other minute of your life. If you go back to the story of Pollyanna by Eleanor H. Porter, 1913, which is portrayed as a children's story which most people haven't read but accept as part of the cultural tapestry, much like Anne of Green Gables or Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, about a nice young girl coming of age in a naive fantasy Pleasantville world. But after having read Pollyanna recently in my role as a literacy tutor, I realized how much wisdom there was in this book written a century or so ago. It's about this young girl whose mother then father dies. She goes to live at the Ladies' Aid charity, then is adopted by a stern aunt, her father's sister, out of duty, not because she wants to, whereupon Pollyanna befriends the housekeeper Nancy, who asks her why she's so cheerful even though she has lived such a hard life, with her aunt being cold with her on their first meeting, putting her in the little bare attic room to be as far away from her as possible. Pollyanna tells her about a game her father, a minister before his death, taught her to play as a young girl, to be cheerful no matter what, to make lemonade out of lemons, so to speak. She tells Nancy that one time when she was little and wanted a doll, they went to the Ladies' Aid charity and all there was a set of children's crutches, so her father told her to be thankful that she didn't need them. It's a pretty good story because it reinforces the fact that you have only two choices in life, to either be optimistic or pessimistic. Too many people get down in the dumps about their problems and stop living for joy, when the bottom line is that you should make a conscious effort to live for joy no matter what problems there are in your life. The winners of life are happy as is without needing a special event to uplift their emotions. You don't need a reason to be happy. It's a way of life, who you are all the time, happy because you got all your toes and fingers and live in an affluent country with the freedom to do what you want. When you're happy like this for no special reason, many of the small, miserable minds out there will be jealous and try to put you down, so be forewarned now and ignore these types of people. Don't take life too seriously. Lighten up, enjoy the ride. Right now, you have everything you need to be happy just by sitting there being free and inspired with your soul, but you had to buy into the world program and feel bad because you're not driving a Jag, you're not a movie star, you're not rich, you don't have a beautiful, glamorous trophy wife, you're not like those people portrayed on the celebrity gossip shows, etc. The greatest thing that keeps people from being happy is their constant thoughts about what they don't have and their attempts to get it, not realizing life will always be that journey you're traveling, and all those little things that are always happening to you are just noise next to the real journey of the soul. Relax, live for inspiration and pleasure and forget the rest. You will never have the perfect life because things will always happen, and anyway, you will always have the eternal struggle of keeping yourself inspired and youthful, which never ends, because as you age, it becomes very easy to get lazy and give up on some of your bouncy spirit. Happiness is not a life of perfect bliss, it's moments of perfect bliss interspersed with periods of sweat, effort, and joy that leave you inspired. So happiness is really hard work, albeit hard work with joy for the process, not the image the capitalist system puts out about luxurious, decadent ease on a cruise ship in the tropics somewhere, because even though that might feel good for a little while, ultimately, it's boring, unchallenging, makes you soft, and is not realistic unless you're rich. money-wise, which very few of us are such that we can avoid the practical realities of life, which is why I live in the middle of inspiration through effort and pleasure through hedonism cycles, because that's what a great life is, a fine balance between these two extremes of working hard at what you love to do to earn your cash and relishing in your life as is when you feel like it without feeling deprived because you don't have all the toys of capitalism. When a storm hits, have the sense not to stay out in it but go to a safe harbor and forget about it completely while you rest in peace. So many people feed their negative energy while in a storm by staying there getting all worried, anxious and angry when you should really get away from it and do only what makes you inspired, gives you pleasure and relaxes you. Then after you do these things, whatever caused your storm will somehow feel a lot less potent than it did a few hours ago. A lot of people worry and make mountains out of molehills out of something either from the past or the future. Nothing matters but right now. When you deal with the present as best as you can, most of your anxieties about the future will not come to pass. It's like Michelangelo said, who is happy? He who is happy with what he has. Happiness is feeling at home in your own skin. It's living in the moment in a simple, calm, gentle manner with the courage to live your life as you feel it should be lived. Happiness is to trust yourself, accept others as they are and trust a few of them as worthy, honorable human beings. Happiness is a celebration of who you really are, living a life being your real self, enjoying yourself, which you're entitled to by birthright without all that guilt and obligation your society tries to indoctrinate you with. Your most happiness comes when you're inspired about something from your soul and pursuing it fervently with enthusiasm. The highest calling in life is to share your happiness with society in a natural way that fits for you. The purpose of life is happiness, yet many people are afraid of it and choose to plug into the media, which is generally serious and sad or frivolous and stupid, which is why I minimize these things in my life, because I consciously want to be happy all the time and have no guilt about it, nor do I tap into the negativity of the world with all the negative stuff on TV. Happiness breeds more happiness, unhappiness breeds more unhappiness. It's having a mind to be happy as is no matter what is happening around you, good or bad. Life is meant to be enjoyed, not be lived with sterile order and a routine plan. Thinking about life is the attitude with which you choose to travel. You have you as is, a neutral being, and you have the thoughts you fill yourself up with, which can be either good or bad, so it's always up to you regardless of outside circumstance. You can get angry due to negative circumstances, but you must learn to quell the anger and still be happy, thankful, and calm on the inside regardless of what bad luck may have befallen you. Happiness is a state of mind that has very little to do with anything else, especially material things, unless you make it so. When someone angers you or treats you unjustly, keep your mouth shut, resolve it in your mind, forgive them silently in your mind without uttering a single word, forget about it as quickly as possible and move on. You must forgive and forget all the crap and injustice that happens all the time around you, to you and to others. Happiness too. Children come into the world joyful. What happens? Matthew Fox, ex-priest, founder of Creation Spirituality University. I believe that all of us get treated unjustly by people all the time because there's so much angst around, with people frustrated, stressed out and angry, then they crap on someone else and the chain keeps going around. So play it cool when somebody craps on you. Don't take it personally. Ignore them and keep moving. It's not mistakes and failure that hurt you, it's dwelling on them. Self-criticism is useless. You should think you're beautiful, glorious, and worthwhile all the time. It's the only way to be happy, to have a Teflon mind where everything negative slips off it away into the ether to be gone forevermore, not to bother you, which is to be happy all the time. As long as you concern yourself greatly with how others live their lives and what they might think about you living your life, you will be too trivial to be happy. You must be question-less, judgment-less, worry-less, and anxiety-less, not too engrossed in the problems of the world and people around you. Just accept life as is and make a conscious effort to live as great a life for yourself as you can every day. You're not being selfish, you're being true to yourself, and the only way you can be a great worthy person for the world is if you're first true to yourself and follow what you intuitively feel inside. Think of the present only. Forget the past and don't bother with the future much because it's just a fantasy at this point in time. There should be no confusion in your life, only a simple focus on the two things that matter. What do I do to keep myself inspired and earn my keep? How I interact with my close little circle of loved ones. That's really it, to simplify life down into these two things only. A life that's going all over the place is really going nowhere. A person trying to please everybody is destroying themselves. A person running around trying to fill themselves up, making the scene everywhere, trying to experience everything there is out there is really a lost soul, as I was when I was in my early 20s, but that was my part of my enlightenment process as a lost soul at that time. I was looking at other people, places, and things to seek out what I was looking for, which I didn't know at the time, which was a sense of peace and happiness within myself, and I didn't find it until I realized that all that stuff out there is fine for a mild diversion, but that's all it is. I'm happy and complete within my soul as is. That's what runs my life, not that stuff out in the world they try to brainwash me with so that I can be another lost, working stiff, consumer clone buying into the system's version of happiness by watching football games, hanging out at the sports bar, going to hyped up crappy movies, playing video games, or any of that other stuff that has been defined as cool by corporate forces, which I see as a bunch of brainwashing crap. I don't need that crap for my happiness. Whenever I meet someone for the first time, I subtly check them out to see how much pop culture stuff they have versus how much they own their lives away from these things. To me, the one without the CD collection of the latest manufactured pop stars or the big video game PlayStation is the more enlightened one, who I automatically like more. Greatly simplify your life and do only the things you really want to do. Take less phone calls, quit any useless organizations you belong to, don't read the newspaper more than once a week, go to the supermarket only once every 2 weeks instead of every week, watch less stupid TV shows, work less. In essence, take a pay cut if you have to, get rid of a lot of your material possessions, buy a smaller house if you want in order to cut down on responsibilities, and live a simpler life in order to have more time to live the way you really want to live, which means being free, creative, spontaneous, and relaxed as much as you can. Live by instinct. All you really own is a finite block of time. Goals from the world are just an agenda your ego brainwashed you into thinking you must do in order to be successful, but following your soul is the true path of a successful life. When you have goals, you're always barging ahead towards capitalist success no matter what. When you live by soul, you're always happy with the process of your life and can be calm and relaxed without feeling anxious that you're missing out on your destiny because you feel you're living out your journey as you go along. Take care of your body and accept it as is. The body is useful to the extent that if it's healthy, it won't interfere with your mind and make you feel vital, but beyond that, the body itself is not the instrument of happiness. No matter how healthy or sickly you are, you still have the consciousness that is your soul. That's where the battle of life is fought, to have a spiritual essence that is always inspired, calm and optimistic no matter what. You will get old and your body will wither, but your consciousness will still have to be cultured all the time in order to stay happy. Unhappiness comes from the fear of making a mistake rather than taking a step forward in your journey. Happiness is the acceptance of our mortal status, that we will age and eventually die. Happiness is having no expectations nor prejudgments about anything. It's to get past your ego and strive for peace and unity with others in every situation you might ever come across. Try to enjoy relationships with other people, at least while you're with them if you have to be, like through your work. Some people are loners, which is fine, but don't purposely try to antagonize other people. Be friendly or silent and neutral rather than being right. Most people have fragile egos. It's better to play along with them, be gentle and try for genuine human connections rather than trying to upstage them with your ego. Life is really not that complicated. Focus on pleasing yourself and your family in your little neck of the woods, and everything else should be secondary to this. If you feel your purpose is to save the world, do it, but if you're a self-centered person who wants to sit in your yard, drink wine, and carve wooden statues, that's fine. Whichever path you choose, You can't be happy unless you do what you truly feel in your soul, whatever it might be, regardless of whether it helps a million other souls or no one but you. Happiness 3. Joy is the human's most noble act. Saint Thomas Aquinas. How might we find happiness in a world which often seems set up precisely to prevent it? What do you want, purely personal happiness or happiness for everyone? Some people called saints get significant satisfaction from alleviating the suffering of others. There are many hybrid people with money and luxury who spend some time helping others, but they can never be happy because all they see is more sadness and need. Finally, there are greedy, selfish people. Many of the pleasure things for sale, all the way from food to drugs, cause bad side effects. Being too much into hobbies estranges loved ones. Wisdom through learning makes the world a lot more interesting. Everything is a fantasy except for what you think. Don't fall for the artificial values of ambition. When you think, be creative and free. Sleep is essential to happiness. To me, happiness is an attitude to life, the conscious active pursuit of inspiration through soulful pursuits counteracted with the search for pleasure. Money can free you to do these things, but too much money and too many possessions complicates your life, not to mention that everyone around you who is less well off will secretly resent you and expect handouts from time to time. Beyond all that, you're a target. Why did they kidnap Lindbergh's baby? Because they thought the old man was rich and famous. I was watching some real-life crime show on TV and they showed some women who got carjacked and shot. When they said the car was some fancy-ass Mercedes-Benz, I snickered to myself, because to me, it's like, what do you expect? You drive around in a Mercedes because you want attention. She got it? Some manager guy robbed the bank he managed and did everything right, except that when he moved to this small town, he bought an expensive Porsche that stuck out like a sore thumb. The local police chief was curious about this guy with this expensive sports car who had no visible means of support. When he was looking through pictures of wanted criminals one day, he spots the guy and gets him. If the guy was driving an old truck, he never would have noticed him. I heard some story on the news about some celebrity movie star who went back to her old neighborhood in New York driving some fancy-ass car. What did she expect when she was flaunting her superiority like that? They trashed her car out of spite for her trying to rub their noses in her superiority/success. It's all in your soul regardless of age. Know your soul, culture it over a lifetime and you win the game. If you think that coloring your hair because you're worth it, or wearing a cute mini skirt, walking through the mall and having all the guys looking at you will bring you happiness, you're setting yourself up for failure because you're looking for external things to give you a boost, much like the has-been sports star or the rock and roller who doesn't fill up auditoriums anymore but is still out there trying to get recognition somehow. You have to have the base to feel good about yourself from within and strive to stay inspired for yourself day by day. Happiness is the formula for great health. Go to the hashtag 615.5 section at the library and look at all the books about the mind-body connection, ranging from Barbara Brown's Biofeedback to Norman Kausing's Anatomy of an Illness. Even the book of Proverbs in ancient biblical times talks about the connection between happiness and health. A cheerful heart is a good medicine, but a downcast spirit dries up the bones. A fit person who takes care of themselves is generally much happier than your average guy who eats what he wants, never exercises, works his stress-filled job and drinks on the side to catch a buzz. Religion doesn't work because you're bowing down to a paternalistic deity which will bring you a collective sense of comfort and a connection to other like-minded people, but you still live alone in your head, and a full life is to be free, not to repress your hedonistic side just because your religion says it's wrong. Studies report that people with a lot of money, power over others and a lot of material things aren't necessarily happier than others. Wealth can enhance your happiness if you're happy in the first place, but if you're not, it probably won't help it much unless you get enlightened and start living by soul. The pursuit of wealth can often bring sadness because you develop a mindset where you're never satisfied no matter what. If you get an RV, you will want a boat, then you will want an ATV, and it will never end. If you got a nice 4-bedroom house, you will want a bigger one with a patio and a swimming pool. This capitalist line of thinking breeds sadness because you will never have enough, like Imelda Marcos of Philippines fame. Her 2,000 pair of shoes showed that she hoarded more than she needed, which meant there was something missing in her soul to be like that. One common thread of happy people is that they live simple lives, doing those few activities they like to do and minimizing the rest, mainly the pressure that goes with being successful within society, often a high-pressure job, the commute to work every day, trying to do too much, not doing what you inherently love to do, etc. Happy people are generally optimistic and look at life as a never-ending adventure where they're doing what they were meant to do and also living in a loving house with a loving family, which is what a lot of people say they want as part of the formula for happiness, to be surrounded by a loving family, although some don't because they see it as a burden. Happiness is the absence of stress with peace of mind, which is all relative. Some guy from some oppressed third world country who goes to a free country and works 50 hours a week at a car wash for a low wage is probably happy because his level of peace and luxury has gone way up relative to his former life, but most Americans would think that this demeaning and a step down in their level of comfort. A part of the media corporate formula is to show us images of so-called wealthy, glamorous people, present them as the in crowd and make us envious such that we are motivated to work our butts off to achieve this end, even though it may not bring us happiness and is just another illusion, as I already talked about. Wealth is good to free you to do what you want, but all that crap about happy people sashaying down fashion runways having a great old frivolous time is a lie, because true happiness has considerably more substance than some phony glamour scene with cheesy disco background music where everybody is secretly competing with everybody else as to who's the most beautiful, fascinating, stunning, advanced, supernatural, divine and glamorous in the crowd. Conversely, the media can further manipulate us by showing us people in hard times or tragedies which make us feel lucky and blessed. The lesson is to culture a sense of happiness without comparing yourself to others, either higher and mightier or lower and subordinate. Reality can't compete with our fantasies regardless of who you are. Even Solomon, with everything he ever wanted, still found comfort in the only place that really mattered, his mind/consciousness. A part of happiness is to have the temperament to not try so hard, to accept your life as is and accept the fact that you can't have everything you want and never will regardless of what you might do. Simply accept life for what it is right now and count your lucky blessings for the great life you've got. An old doctor once said, if you're not feeling any pain today, you got nothing to complain about. He was an emergency room supervisor in a big city, accustomed to seeing pain and misery around him all the time through the endless revolving door of new patients coming in. The morale is to accept yourself as is and be happy with your lot in life, whatever it may be. Whether you're fat, thin, beautiful, ugly, rich, or poor, accept yourself, think highly of yourself, try to live a noble life, and you will have some measure of happiness in it. Happy people believe in themselves and pursue their own lives, believing they alone are responsible for their destinies, not the conditions around them nor the opinions of people, either good or bad. They know they're all right within themselves and pursuing the right course of action for themselves without needing the world out there to validate them. Ben Franklin said, peace and work give us happiness, not wealth and opulence, so it comes down to what we do with ourselves day after day. We have to develop a flow about our lives such that we inherently know we're doing our soul's work, what we were created to do, and feeling great about it. The conventional dogma about happiness generally states that happy people are generally monogamous people in a marriage with children in what is traditionally known as a family, who worship at the local religious place and have some faith in a higher supreme being, which I can't attest to because I'm basically a free spirit not particularly interested in monogamy nor religion, but feel I'm as happy as any human could be with respect to what I've got. I could use more money to free me from the burden of worrying about it, but beyond that, I feel no need to acquire a family or religion to enhance my happiness. If I had money, I would enhance my pursuit of hedonism, transitory pleasurable experiences which would make me happier than I am now, but all in all, I feel pretty happy for a guy with not a lot of money and no status in the so-called real world. I'm satisfied living as great a life as I can in the present moment without pondering where my eternal soul will end up. I will deal with it when it happens if, in fact, there is life after death. I got reasonably good karma anyway. I will go where the light is if there is such a thing. Happiness 4. You either make yourself miserable or make yourself strong. The amount of work is the same. It all comes down to the power in your mind and the attitude with which you choose to travel. ZT, warrior for a better life. Epicurus, the ancient Greek philosopher, said happiness is a simple life with peace of mind. Plato said happiness is a moral code and virtuous attitude to life, in essence, the conscious pursuit of wisdom throughout. The spectrum of philosophical thought regarding happiness throughout history has ranged the spectrum like living for truth, living for pleasure, living in the moment, living for your evil whims but being intelligent enough to get away with it, living in solitude to create things, and the list goes on. The ideas as varied as there are people in the world, but there are some constants which I believe I've found. Hedonism is fine but by itself empty because you need a sense of exertion and purpose, which I believe comes through inspired noble soulful pursuits. The same goes for love and intimacy, good as one part of life but not enough to distract you from playing your own game, being true to yourself. Happiness is a condition within you. It doesn't come from how you present yourself to the world or how others see you. In fact, most people lie to themselves about how happy they are and put on a phony face for the world because it's cool to appear happy and uncool to appear as you probably really are, which is mundane and slightly depressed, which is what surveys would have us believe most people are. How can anybody be happy working a full-time job, responsible for several mouths to feed? This is the societal paradigm for the upstanding citizen, but it seems kinda dull or restricting to me. If you consciously seek happiness, you won't find it. If you forget the search and simply live to enjoy your life as it happens, you will be happy in the course of the ordinary events of the day. Happiness is not a momentary mood, it's how you feel most of the time in unguarded moments away from the rest of humanity. This is the real you, not that jovial face you put on acting like a jokester around your buds. This could be an act you put on to try to mask your true inner feelings. They say that a lot of comedians are depressed. The comedy is a way to deal with sadness they feel. Happiness is feeling good about yourself because of who you are and what you do day by day. Every experience, no matter how great, is transient, so the game of life is to find what keeps you inspired, relaxed, and euphoric, and keep repeating these things day after day. Happiness is living in the moment whilst going in positive motions with your visions and dreams. Happiness is inner peace along with enough money to live comfortably. The secret to happiness is to face the fact that the world is horrible and ignore it. Happiness is all in the mind regardless of anything that happens outside of you. Happiness comes from a focus on inner worth and inner contentment attained through self-acceptance and inspired action over anything else, even a need for love and the entire material world. Happiness comes from self-knowledge and self-love. Happiness is a deep feeling within, not something you get through frivolous pursuits. With just your mind and your basic material needs met, you can be happy by focusing on living a great life and not fretting too much about the so-called real world. You have to make a conscious decision to live your consciousness as a cool, peaceful, fun, fascinating journey all the time. There's an art to this happy state of mind. You have to minimize everything else and say, as long as I live for my soul and feel it, I will be alright minute by minute, day by day. To me, happiness is peace and calmness, living in my free thoughts, consciously living in that easy breezy groove I always strive for, analyzing my life as I go along, my inspiration and youthful spark intact, my material needs met through my own hard work, and a few warm bodies around loving me and me them, ideally both pets and people with both sensuous love and intimate love in there. Happiness is to feel at peace within and at peace with the world, to love it, and respect other people. Happiness is an easygoing approach to life, to not take anything too seriously, to deal with my problems quickly and let them roll off my back as quickly as I can. It's all in the mind, that's where you live. You have to live in a romantic sensuous fantasy regardless of where you are or what you do. Happiness 5. The bulk of happiness comes from one thing. I'm happy when I'm inspired and purposeful, sad when I brood and get cynical. This fine line changes all the time. I get inspired for a while, then sit around and feel like I'm losing myself, so I have to get my inspiration, therefore my happiness, back through inspired soulful action. Otherwise I'd just stay in that mundane feeling forever like most people do, but I fight it with inspired action. There ain't no magical frivolous happyland anywhere on the planet unless you shell out the bucks to stay at an all-inclusive resort, go on an all-inclusive cruise, or go to Disneyland several times a week. Everywhere else is dog-eat-dog, people trying to survive and get ahead any way they can. The powers that be show us the fruits of capitalism and imply that we should work very hard to strive for these things because they want to sell things and make money, while keeping people in this deficient mindset, saying to themselves that success, that's what I need to make me happy, so I will destroy my life working for these illusions. I say cool it, don't let them mess with you like this. Be real. I've been there, done that everywhere that matters. There ain't no streets paved with gold anywhere where everybody's prancing around all happy like as friends. That's a media illusion. If you go to some place like a ritzy party, a fashion show, or a movie premiere, everybody's trying to either show off how uppity they are to get their egos stroked, or get something out of somebody else like drugs, sex, connections, recognition, compliments, or money. If you go to some big party spot like Ibiza or Miami during spring break, there's still the status games, the rift between the rich and the poor, everybody competing with each other to find the best guy or best chick they can for either love or sex. The guys are trying to be the coolest and most athletic in the bunch. The girls are trying to be the prettiest. The supposedly cool ones are worried lest somebody more cool topple them. It's pretense. There's no peace there. Everybody wants to get ahead or be cooler than the next guy. Everything's fair weather. As long as you got the cash, they will be fair weather friends. Once it's gone, you're gone. Happiness comes from a genuine love of life, an acceptance of yourself, and a knowledge that your reality is wholly inside your head. You always end up standing on your own. Your own reality is all you have. You could win the Olympic gold medal, the Nobel Prize, and the Academy Award all in the same day, but the next morning when you lift your head off the pillow, it's just you there by yourself, and it's a new day. It's your job to find happiness on that day and every other day after that. You have to have the sense to be comfortable with yourself by yourself without other people around. You shouldn't concern yourself with the gossip of anybody's life but your own. You don't know anything about other people's lives, so you shouldn't judge or compare yourself to them. Plus the fact that beyond the basics, everybody is stuck in their own minds, therefore happiness can only go so high qualitatively for any human being, so you have all the tools within yourself to reach the highs every day if you really want to. Happiness comes softly by doing things you enjoy and not searching for it. Happiness comes from self-reliance. It's nice to love and be loved, but happiness is a function outside of these things, totally dependent on your mind. As I already said, even in love, happiness is up to you because you have to give as an active participant in order to partake of it. Sharing ourselves is nice, but the core of happiness comes from a sense of inner peace resulting from the self-mastery to become the person you want to be. Happiness 6. I presume that the path of life is towards happiness regardless of what your particular conception is. Happiness is not a commodity that you're necessarily born with, although genetics probably plays a role in it. It's your job to cultivate a sense of happiness in your life. It's not a passive thing. Happiness takes vigilance and action. You have to choose to be happy, and sometimes it may not be easy because the bottom line, cold fact is that we live in a sad, somber world. Happiness to me is an easy feeling I have most of the time because I'm enjoying my life and taking positive action somehow. I have health, vitality, and peace. Lighten up. Life ain't that deep. Most people are somber because that's the way of the world and the way of the mental health fields, to focus on the negatives. Life is meant for happiness. You get there by being simple, living for joy, looking for it and creating it your own life. Don't get too deep and read all their stupid books about stupid syndromes and all that other garbage. In the past, people didn't have these phony afflictions to blame their pathetic lives on. Keep it simple, clean your mind out of all the crap, then go out and live your life. Make it happen and the happiness should come. They pummel the negative so-called news at us every hour on the hour. This is wrong for a healthy state of mind. You may say that you want to be aware of things, but negative things always have a negative effect. I prefer not to watch the news, nor do I watch most fictional TV shows. Garbage into your brain produces garbage out of your brain, so the lesson is that in order to be happy, you have to choose to be happy and live happily, and the way you do that is that you think happy, make your living space happy, and create happy rituals that keep you centered. I'm an atheist, but the reason I watch religious TV is that that's one of the few places on TV where people are trying to be positive. Your happiness is how you feel all the minutes of the waking day, therefore happiness is a state of mind. All that really matters is the thinking process that's going on in your brain, which is distinct and separate from all material things and from all other people. Therefore, your happiness is all up to you, regardless of material possessions or what people say and think about you. This is a very important lesson. Too many people get bogged down with trying to find happiness through material things and / or through other people, trying to get other people to admire them and give them compliments. You will never find true happiness pursuing either of these paths. Thinking happily, living in a happy living space, and creating a centering ritual are all interrelated to make you a totally happy person. Make a conscious effort to feel happy, free, and unfazed by the regular crap of life. You need some kind of daily habit or ritual to get you away from everything to be by yourself so that you can center yourself. This could be something like walking your dog, exercising, listening to music, or sitting around in peace. Control of the body is a necessary facet of true happiness. You must do some kind of physical activity, even if it's mild, like dancing or walking. Happiness doesn't come from attaining a goal. So many athletes and so-called celebrities have crashed after they won the gold medal or became a star or whatever because they thought it would bring them happiness, but it didn't. I read a story about some diver who won a gold medal at the Olympics and thought it would bring him the happiness and the money he craved, but when it didn't, he found himself spiraling down an empty hole of near suicidal proportions. The gold medal after the fact was just a hunk of metal, nothing more, nothing less. Buddhists claim that happiness is directly related to a feeling of inner peace compounded with true compassion for the world in all its aspects. To them, happiness comes from facing suffering, conquering it, and being a light to the world. There's too much self-created suffering out there, like people wallowing in self-pity. You must deal with your problems and move on. Don't be overly sensitive about life. Just deal and move on. Life is not fair, that's a fact. Take your licks, keep your mouth shut, and remember that you're still much better off than millions just by virtue of living in an industrialized country. Don't give in to all this trivial stuff. Live for soul and aesthetics, and that's it. You gotta have the right attitude, and I don't give a damn attitude. Just keep moving. Turn negatives into positives by your attitude. See it all as a learning experience of life. Your mind must have rose-colored glasses in order to see the positive in everything. Deal with the negatives, but don't dwell on them. Learn from your pain, then move on. Rose-colored glasses are fine to deal with life, but don't live in delusion. Stay in the real world. Buddhists say the only way to deal with all the negativity in the world is via tolerance and patience. In other words, stay cool no matter what. Don't dwell on what you can't control. Just stay cool and let it all wash away into nothingness as you live your life and go for happiness 1 minute at a time. If a problem has a solution, do it and don't worry. If a problem doesn't have a solution, it's out of your control, so forget about it. Honesty with yourself is the beginning of happiness. The next step is to heal your hurts, then get on with going for the highs in life and getting spiritually peaceful. Happiness is doing the things that memories are made of: a nice day with your family or friends, a moment in time when you expended yourself fully to be more than you thought you could go, lazy hazy days having fun on a summer's day, whatever your version of fun may be. In the end, I believe that love, sex, creative expression, physical activity, sensual pleasures, peace, and the conscious search for inspiration are the most important things in life. You have to live for the beauty of experience, that's what you were put on this earth for. You're always a work in progress. It never ends. There will always be problems, crises, and setbacks, but the trick is to always bounce back no matter what. Just find what makes you tick in your deepest core and go with it for the rest of your life. That's where the power is. Pursue life as though you have a unique purpose with a clear intention. This should give you the intuition to live your life in a harmonious flow, and from there, you should be unfettered and free, living for your own standards. Happiness 7. Happiness is a willingness to be what you feel inside. To be happy is to be where you are, enjoying the experience for the experience itself, with the hope, in some cases, that your efforts will lead to a brighter future for you and others, but often it's just the experience in the moment itself that you must relish solely for its own sake in order to win the game of life. Happiness is living peacefully, stable inside above the swings of your passions and material fortunes or misfortunes. It's an acceptance of your life, gratitude for the simple pleasures and the pursuit of harmony within yourself to be a virtuous, noble person. John Stuart Mill said, "It's better to be Socrates dissatisfied than a pig satisfied," meaning to me that it's better to be your noble self and strive for what you believe in than sell out to all the cheap thrill distractions of the world, work a dull job, have your material comforts, but deep down you don't feel right about your life, that you're not honoring yourself the way you were meant to. Well-being, which is happiness, is different from the temporary high of a good concert, a good laugh, a good shot of rum. This is the true test. Do you feel good almost all the time through the test of the many days that comprise your life, day after day? It's a state of mind. You have to feel like you're living a worthy life where you're honoring yourself and satisfied with what you're doing, that you're answering the true call of your soul. Western society is geared for materialism, to make you envious of those at the other end of the rainbow who have all the material things and strive to attain that for yourself, because that's the capitalist ideal of happiness, but you often end up destroying yourself getting there because material things, beyond the middle class basics, do almost nothing for your true happiness, so you have to look for it through other things like living a life such that you do what makes you happy. In our capitalist world, the ideals seem to be love and work, to raise a great family and love what you do, but it doesn't have to be this or this alone. When you have your basic security and material needs met, happiness goes away from the material realm to encompass other things like sensual pleasures, intimate connections, the comfort of religious beliefs, and the pursuit of deep meaning in life. Money takes the role of diminishing returns. A middle-class amount like $50,000 could help our comfort level of happiness out a lot, but a more lavish amount like $1 million won't necessarily give us that much more happiness. Instead of trying too hard, let go, live for the flow within yourself regardless of the outcome in the so-called real world. The problem is we've all been brainwashed to search for such high capitalist type ambitions in the world, when real happiness is the awareness that you've got your health, you ain't feeling any pain today. You probably got a few friends and people who love you, and you've got the free day to do as you please in a relatively advanced, prosperous country. Hell, you're better off than most of the world now and in past history if only you could slow down enough to take the corporate capitalist blinders off and see life for the essence of the experience that it is. Happiness is freedom, to be free enough to throw off the blinders you've been brainwashed by, to live a life that's natural and real to you, to be real enough to friends and lovers such that you bare your soul to them and they love you all the more for it. Happiness is to have peace in the eye of the storm every time we're metaphorically kicked and beaten up by the forces of the world out there. It's to release the pain from ourselves, let go and move on undaunted no matter what happens, be it the worst tragedy or the funnest time ever. We simply get up the next day and consciously do whatever it takes to keep us perpetually inspired. Happiness is to accept your life, travel lightly, stay young and inspired, and add your little piece of beauty to the world in your own way. Can you be happy without pressuring yourself to achieve some illusory goal, or live without all that voluntary stress you put on yourself by working too hard, having too many kids, too many ambitions, too many self-imposed responsibilities? Can you be a quiet person who's simply there in the presence of his loved ones even when he doesn't love them all that much? Can you accept all your economic hardships and unrealized dreams and keep moving on, inspired about your life? Can you accept instances of bad luck, failing health, and your future death? These are the true tests of the happy person, to overcome all the crap in society and all the negativity of the world, to simply keep going on trying to be inspired and getting some pleasure out of your life. Happiness is not a destination. It's the attitude with which you choose to travel. To live for your soul is to be happy. Happiness always starts at the core from loving your life first. Other people can help you be happy, but it's always you that has to create it, because you're stuck living in your own brain, responsible for your own happiness. Hope is the anchor of the soul, so it's the precursor for all inspiration and strength in life. You do things for a reason, because they will make you a happier, more complete person, and if you can't get there exactly, you make the best of what you have while working on your visions. We seek out fulfillment by buying things and getting sensual thrills, all the way from sex to drugs to jumping out of airplanes, but at the very core of our existence as human beings, all people, except for the most selfish, need to feel meaning in their lives, to feel like they matter somehow, somewhere, sometime to somebody, to feel like their life is worth it in a useful, unique way somehow. Hedonism by itself cannot make you happy, because at the very core, you will still feel unused, that you're not using up your natural potential in a worthy way. Our health and physical strength figure broadly in the quest for happiness, especially for men whose worth in society is partially determined by how strong and virile they look, just like women are supposed to look young and beautiful in order to attract men who will think they will be good mothers. Happiness to me is having lived the entire spectrum of the human experience at a relatively young age, and having gotten through it all with a good understanding of my life that allows me to live peacefully for my inner states day after day, living out inspiration, pleasure, rest, love, and friendship, monitoring myself all the time, contemplating my life, acting on my whims, doing worthy pursuits from my soul, and having the sense to know I'm about as free as I can be without oodles of money that would allow me to create my own fantasy world to excess if I wanted to. So I'm running with my own journey and not so self-indulgent that I'm doing extreme things to satisfy myself while I know half of the world is starving, which leaves me in a good place of balanced karma. I'm enjoying my life, doing something worthy with it while not going to that other extreme side of frivolity, self-indulgence, selfishness, hoarding, or extreme materialism, which I believe causes disharmony in people who engage in these things, because it somehow seems patently ungrateful and disrespectful for the sanctity of life when you engage in trivial excess, while you know that humility and balance are the universal positive human qualities you should strive for. The overwhelming criteria for happiness is that you feel in control of your life, steer your own ship, and make your own decisions. You're the captain of your ship, soul of your destiny. Happy people see a bright future for themselves, love what they do, live in a peaceful, balanced flow of work, soulful pursuits, and pleasure, sensuous hedonism, have a few kindred spirit friends and a soulmate lover or two to share it all with. Happy people have some belief in a life after death, usually through some religion which gives them hope and joy that their lives are eternal and going somewhere permanent forever. Happiness 8. On your deathbed, to look back and see a totally hedonistic life would feel empty. To see that you used yourself up in a worthy way would make you feel like you were completing the cycle started by your parents when they created you, that your life mattered somehow. Noble human beings need to feel like they're passing the torch on from their souls. Most want to contribute to the progress of the human race in some way. For many of us, though not all, it's in our nature to do something worthy with our lives. This is one solution to all the emptiness most of us invariably feel. I'm not a corny sap who says that love of humanity is the solution, because I don't believe that it's possible, but I believe that everybody has a soul which houses some manner of spark and inspiration which they can release and express somehow to do something worthy for themselves and for other people, and this is as close to finding fulfillment as I know. Happiness has to be a quality about living that you already have within you. We all have dreams of a better life which take hard work, which is the price to pay for dreams, but I've learned to go easy and not take dreams too hard, especially illusory dreams. I caution you not to take on a dream that's an illusion of the world, because if you do, no matter how successful you get out there, you will still feel empty until you find your true soul. There are plenty of casualties out there with lots of money who've destroyed their bodies and souls to get there. Pure and simple, true happiness is love of life. Life is meant for living, not watching on TV. Life is meant for joy every minute of the waking day, but we have a society that tells us to be level-headed and unemotional, at least out in public. If you smile too much or are too happy, the miserable fools around you won't like it and try to put you in your place. They might even think you're nuts or on drugs, someone off-center, all because you're a happy person, unlike most of the generic folk walking around. Fun and happiness are states of mind. You don't get them by going down a water slide, going to a fair or a strip joint. You either already have them inside of you or you don't. It's great to go to these places for mild entertainment, but they do little for how I really feel inside. It's up to you. I don't buy into all that biochemical crap about depression. If you want to be happy, you can will it so and make it happen with action, and the biochemistry in your brain will automatically perk up. It's karma. Happiness will reap more happiness in your mind. If you're truly happy, you don't need action all the time. You can be happy just sitting there because you accept everything that happens in life and none of it registers much on any scale whatsoever. You're as stable as a rock. You just accept and live like some old Buddhist monk or some of these old guys you see around who've been to hell and back so many times that nothing much registers anymore. They're as calm as cucumbers because they've seen it all and absolutely nothing will ever faze them, like some of the old guys that have been through World War II and the concentration camps. Life in America is nothing to them. Many of us have mental blocks against striving to be happy and joyful because the price is too great, effort. Although you can be peaceful sitting around, I've only found that I'm ever truly happy if I've expended myself through some kind of soulful action, then sit around and love my life. Some of us are conditioned to associate pleasure with sin, guilt, or forbidden things, so we live our entire lives anxious about letting loose too much. I believe that most people simply take the path of least resistance. It's easier to live a flatline mundane life than strive to develop yourself to be a happy, joyful person. Lethargy is profitable because it keeps people as empty-spirited consumers, always looking for something to relieve their emptiness. Anything from psychotherapy to video games to Prozac to pizza to chocolate. Happiness in our society is something like a sin because it implies self-love, which is perfectly normal if you're happy, but our society prefers it if we're not tuned into ourselves and stay distracted on things like job, career, junk food, TV, news, and sports in the media, because they make us dumb generic consumers, prisoners of the almighty brainwashing machine, party to this grand illusion, able to be easily managed and manipulated and profitable because people who are like this spend lots of money trying to get happy, which they invariably can't get through all those cheap trinkets out there. Every year I watch the stupid, phony ritual of watching football games as the supposed sign of what cool men do in our society. I quietly laugh with contempt when I see these phony sports broadcasters on TV acting like they just love that stuff, or anybody I come across who acts like one of these football clones. Stupid, brainwashed clone. I can't think of too much more boring than watching a football game. As long as we keep consuming and watching TV, we will stay in the dark, which is perfectly fine for the powers that be of our capitalist-driven society, who can then sell us more pizzas, aspirin, T-shirts with stupid logos on them, and cranberry juice. They want a dumb Joe who works a functional job, then watches wrestling, football, drinks beer, and orders pizzas, not an enlightened guy who doesn't need all those crappy consumer goods for a thrill. Happiness is the recognition of this phenomena, but not subservience to it. You merely watch it all like a circus and do your own thing through it all. You have your own mind. You don't judge anyone, merely accept everyone as God does, as a respecter of no one, which is good because you treat everyone the same, equally, with no prejudice involved. Happy people try to simplify their lives as much as possible to focus only on those things that they know make them truly happy, without focusing on anything else as much as possible. When they find what makes them happy, they simply live for those things and try to drown everything else out, even the superficial necessities they have to deal with. They deal with them as quickly as possible, then go back to what they enjoy doing. We can only experience one thing at a time, and since we can only process a certain amount of information, it's better for us if we slow down and simplify our lives. Happy people find the flow and rhythm to their lives and go with it, living on intuition all the time. Daily life unfolds in a certain routine for all people regardless of station in life. It goes best if paced. Try to find that rhythm and live with it in peace. If you can arrange circumstances such that you don't have to bust your butt and can work at a relaxed pace doing exactly what you want to do, it's obviously the best way to go. Happiness is how you spend your time doing what you deem important every day of your life. It's doing things because you get a lot of enjoyment out of the experience of doing them. If you find these things, your willpower and motivation will be high because you do for the love of doing them. It's a combination of the time you spend with people, time spent at work, and time spent pursuing what you enjoy in your leisure time. Think it through sometime, determine what you really like doing and focus on that. To me, leisure and work are the same things. Cheap thrills do almost nothing for my permanent state of happiness, but I do them occasionally because it's a part of the spectrum of life. Try to do things because of your natural enthusiasm and curiosity, and tie everything together so that your life is a smooth, easy, beautiful flow of experiences and downtimes. Do what you feel like doing at any particular time. If you want to work, work. If you want to hang out with friends, hang out. If you want to do nothing, do nothing. Go with the flow of your life. Finding what you like and pursuing it on an ongoing basis is the key to your happiness. Although you have to live in the real world of rules and structures, you minimize it by not thinking about it much. Your primary focus is the freedom to explore life. The everyday world shouldn't matter to your true, original self, so the point is that even though you live in this mundane world, you're not of it because you have the ability to transcend it in any of numerous ways, and that's your key to being happy. A happy person is passionate and alive, experiencing life fully. He has fear of the unknown but doesn't let it stop him. He feels the fear, does it anyway, and keeps going on enjoying life and moving towards his purpose at the same time. It's not immersion in one thing, it's a balance of all relevant sectors like your practical needs, your purpose, love and sex, relaxation, and time for trivial pursuits like TV or music, because these things can replenish and inspire the soul. Hard work all the time towards a goal will wear you out. It's always balance. As long as I do enough tough, worthy stuff to feel inspired, I'm alright. It's better than racing like a madman than burning out. Happiness is not necessarily the thrill of victory in front of the crowd, it's you, by yourself, doing something you love. We live in the most advanced society the history of the world has ever known. Why be miserable when we all have the potential to live great lives? Even poor people can live great lives compared to just about everyone in the past, and all those people in poor countries now who have no opportunities nor the infrastructure to get what they want out of the deal. We live in a world that offers us just about anything we might want in the way of material goods for relatively small amounts of money. Everything's here to live great lives if we want to. In all of history, it's only been in the past 30 years or so that we've evolved to have all the consumer goods available that we might ever want to truly enjoy our lives. Yet why, despite all this, do many people live morbid lives of straight-out blandness? In the end, you hopefully have a nice, happy, easygoing person who's taking this life and using it to weave a unique, unitary fabric of beauty, peace, and aesthetics each and every day. Life itself becomes your art form. You're a living, breathing monument to humanity, an original masterpiece of the human race. Your heart is open to the world. You have no inhibitions. You can look at yourself in the mirror or in your mind's eye and know that you're a worthy human being who's doing something worthwhile with his or her life. Happiness 9. Life is what you make it out to be. It's not only the truth, it's we all need to hold close. All of us face challenges and obstacles. Embrace challenges as learning adventures. We worry too much. Let go of perfection or other people's standards. Simply do what makes you feel good. Live the life that you desire. Love your life. Don't fear life. Be thankful. Dance. Surrender to life. Live in the present moment. Live as though it's the last day of your life. Love an animal. Michael-Bonnell.com